talking about I was talking about tips for starting your own YouTube channel or for YouTubers who are new to YouTube. And I think the biggest thing that I would say that I've learned is just authenticity, which I talked to a little bit in the previous video. Just be yourself, be real, keep it real with your followers, with your fans. I mean, you won't have a ton of a following. Like, let me tell you guys, the first few months that I started my channel, I really didn't have anybody. I think I probably had like 10 or 20 followers or like, subscribers on the channel. It took at least like a year for me to get like 500 or something like that, which I was like so pumped. I was like 500, man. I was psyched. Like I thought that was a whole lot of people. And I just recently hit 24,000, which to me is like, that's incredible. Like the fact that I even got to 500, 1,000, that 10,000, every time I hit those milestones, I was like, this is nuts. Like I never thought that was going to be me. Like I never thought anybody was going to want to listen to me talk. And honestly, at the earlier on when I first started, I was just talking about credit, and I didn't necessarily know everything that I know now about personal finance because I learned more recently as I read more, as I learned more, watched more TED talks. All the stuff that I do that I recommend on here. I did a lot of that stuff after. So you learn and grow, and you get better at what you want to do, and you realize kind of like more of what your message is going to be, what you want to talk about on your channel. So yeah, just stay true to who you are and really figure out who your audience is, who you want your audience to be and who you're talking to, and then you'll be all set with your videos. I never necessarily invested a ton of money in the channel either. Like I never paid for sponsorships or ads. I never did ads like that. I never um I learned Photoshop a few years back, and I used it to do my own thumbnails. I never bought fancy camera. I have my iPhone or whatever, iPhone that I had. I started with the iPhone 6, then iPhone 7. I still have the iPhone 7 now. Um, and yeah, so just it doesn't necessarily even take like a lot of money or like a lot of fancy equipment. A lot of people always like, oh, how you YouTube, what camera, what mics do you use? Later on, I got a mic because you guys, because a lot of people that watch my videos were like, girl, I can't hear you, or it's staticky, like your mic sucks, like your audio sucks. And I was like, damn, I guess people really care about the sound quality. So that's when I started to do research, and I was like, oh, maybe I should get one of these little $100, $200 microphones if it's gonna make that much of a difference, especially after I started making money on YouTube. And I don't even make that much money. I make a few $100s every month on YouTube, but it helps. And that's when I realized, okay, maybe I should put some of this money back into the channel and give the viewers what they want. They want better audio. Like I could get a mic, like I could do that. It doesn't take that much. And Diana G. Thompson, you're right, girl, is worth it because people are going to have a better experience. They're going to relate to you more when they could hear what you're saying, they actually understand you. Like it's hard when you're trying to watch a video and it's staticky or it keeps breaking up or the audio is just really bad or it's like loud in the background, whatever. So I'm not an expert at all when it comes to editing or sound quality or anything like that, but I try to make sure it's decent every time. Diane, hey boo, I know you out there in China. Girl, I got people out here in China watching me. I love you, boo. I miss you. Did I actually quit my day job? Yes, I did, Omar. I quit my day job in probably like middle of May. I gave my month's notice. Like I didn't want to leave 2 weeks notice because where I work with a lot of kids. She didn't quit her day job. She just got a new one. Yes, it's true. But I did quit my day job, and then I got a new job. So like basically when I put my video out there saying I quit, I had quit completely, and I was planning to do YouTube full time. Like I was like, I'm just gonna grow my channel more. I'm gonna do more talks because you guys, if you follow my Instagram, and also previous videos, I talked about how I go to schools and talk to kids because the youth need to know this stuff. Like I wish I knew this when I was 17, before I went to college, before I signed my first credit card agreement, before student loans and all that stuff. So I talked to a lot of youth, and I feel like that's a big piece of it. So I was like, I could just do that full time. And I don't need a lot of money to live. So I feel like even if I don't make a ton of money off of that, I'll be good. But then this opportunity came up because I had did this podcast. I was featured as a guest on a podcast for this organization. And then they, reached out to me and said, listen, we weren't planning on hiring anybody, but since you're doing this work and we really love what you're doing, would you consider it? And I was like, oh, actually, hey, I actually would consider that because it's right in line with what I want to do with my own brand, with MissBeHelpful too. So yes, I did get a new job and I recently started in August. I'm going to be doing educational outreach for a nonprofit that has a personal finance curriculum. So if you know any high school students, high school teachers, high school parents, high school principals who are interested in getting more like young, fresh type of energy to learn personal finance, because a lot of the curriculum that exists is written by older people or it's outdated. It doesn't incorporate apps. It doesn't incorporate websites like blogs, like videos. It doesn't incorporate a lot of like media. And the internet is huge. And like when this curriculum that most schools used was created, it was, it's kind of outdated, like the 90s and stuff, and before the 90s even in some cases. So I think what the organization that I have, the curriculum that we have is great because it's online, it's current, it's all using Google Docs. So teachers can edit it. It's really cool. So that's why I decided to join, even though I wasn't necessarily planning on doing another day job until I, did more of what I wanted. But it worked out. I'm not gonna be mad. Life kind of sometimes it takes you where you need to go, even if you didn't necessarily plan to go there. Like you just end up in places where you be like, oh, okay, I could be here. I like this place. So that's what happened. I just got this job and I'm really happy so far. A month in. So it's still early, but I really like it. What would be your advice to someone who's trying to reach financial independence, but at the same helping their parents pay off their debt? Oof, that's real. Who said that? Seashell. That is real. Seashell SEC. It's hard. It's definitely hard. So my first piece of advice is to just decide how much is like what how much can you do realistically speaking, meaning ultimately I know this is going to sound crazy to a lot of people who will always say to the death of me I put my parents first, my family first. You have to put yourself first, and for me I had to learn that the hard way because I was putting my family first a lot. Like my little brothers, I was tutoring them even when I didn't have no energy. I was tired, I had to go to work the next day and teach, like, and I would still come to my parents house to help them, and it sucks the energy that you have out of you. So you have to figure out what is it that I am capable of doing and giving that is not too much, that it doesn't begin to drain me. And that's the same thing with your finances. If you're giving too much to the point where it's draining your financial situation and you can't keep your finances in check because you're giving money away to someone else, you need to say, okay, let me be realistic and let me say, mom, dad, like, this is what I can do. They're not going to be like, they're not going to say no. They're not going to reject your help. Like anything you can do to help is helpful. It's help. Help is help. But you got to be real with yourself and you have to make sure you're helping you first. If you're in debt, you need to focus. Okay, let me focus on my debt plan first. And then if you feel like you can manage it, then definitely give to your parents and help with that as well. But if you're doing too much and it's actually starting to hurt you, you need to have a real conversation with your family. You need to sit down, look at your finances, go through your stuff and really make sure you're put together first before you start jumping in to try to save somebody else. Because too many people end up in a bad situation. They were trying to be too nice and they didn't keep it real with themselves about what they couldn't do. So yeah, be real with yourself. Sit down and crunch the numbers out and see if you can actually afford to be helping somebody else. Hey, thanks for your advice and videos. My credit has been building to buy a new house. That's awesome. P. Jones, congratulations on increasing your credit. It is hard to do because it takes a lot of time, unless it's utilization, which can happen overnight. But everybody don't have the money to pay, to pay down their debt. So utilization, it's like you have to have the money. You have to have the money to pay down what you owe. And if you have it, great. You're going to be good. It's going to be easy for you. But if you don't have it, it's going to be really hard because, you're going to have to spend money that you don't have. So I have a couple other questions on here. There's so many, and I want to try to get to them in order. So I'm going to scroll back to the top. But I opened the online savings account, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, thanks to you. That is awesome. Tyree, congratulations. Marcus by Goldman Sachs and Ally are the two savings accounts right now, online savings accounts that offer 1.85% interest, which is incredible. I mean, my old bank account that I had was like 0.05. So it was like I had to save $100 just to get a nickel. So if you can, multiply that by 20, multiply that by 40 and get back way more, it still doesn't sound like a lot because it's less than $2 for every 100, but it's way better than getting a nickel for every 100. I'll tell you that much. So if you're looking for a savings account, I definitely recommend considering an online savings account. And there's a lot of different high yield online savings accounts that you can consider. So I'm glad that you were able to find one that works for you, Tyree. Keep it the great work. Thank you. That's really sweet. If you have a credit card to build your credit, is it a good idea to have a loan at the same time to help build credit fast? That's fine. It's good to have a bunch of different types of credit that you're juggling, like different types of debt that you're paying back. But at the same time, you just want to try to make sure that you don't apply for all of them at the same time. You want to make sure that you don't open the student credit card and the loan at the exact same time, or the credit card and the loan at the exact same time, because what will happen is that it'll hurt your score. So you want to make sure that you spread them out. I would say like every 6 to 8 months, every 2 to 3 accounts a year max. Try not to do more than that because then it's going to be a lot of inquiries on your credit report, which can really hurt. So, and some people use that as a strategy. Like they just open a whole bunch of accounts and they know their credit is going to suck for a while because their age of credit is going to be really low. The average is going to be really low. And then after a few years, it'll start to go up. So if you can afford to have bad credit for a while, then that's fine. It won't hurt you. But it'll be better in the long term. It won't hurt you necessarily if you're not using it, but just, consider that it will hurt your score in the short term, and then it'll get better later. It's worth it. We talked about that. Is this your full-time job now? Yes, we already talked about my job. What do you think about Robinhood or Stash? So a lot of people were asking me about Acorn, Stash, Robinhood. Um, what other ones have people been asking me about? Like just different apps. I'm just to put it out there. I'm not against any of the apps that I don't talk about on my channel. The only thing that the reason why I don't necessarily post about all of them is because I don't use them, and I like to post about stuff that I know firsthand because I use it, or somebody I know uses it so I could, give a testimonial or whatever. But it's just hard because I use Betterment, I use Wealthfront, right? Like I feel like I already have all these investing apps and I don't want to just be opening every app just to try it. I mean, I could, but like, you're linking your bank account every time you open these accounts. I don't want to have like my bank account linked to like all these different accounts. It's not a big deal, but like, I like to read about them. And if I see it's really, really great, I'll do it. But Stash and Acorns and Robinhood, these are all apps that allow you to do that want you to do something that I feel that I'm already doing with Betterment and Wealthfront, right? Investing small amounts of money over time. I'm already doing that. And also having access to controlling what kind of investments you have. With Robinhood, you can purchase individual stocks. I'm not interested in doing that right now. And I feel like with Betterment and Wealthfront, at least I can see, where what I'm investing in. So because I have that information, I just feel like I don't need it right now. But if I get to the point where I'm interested in investing in stocks, definitely would do Robinhood, especially because it's free. And if I recommend it to a young person who doesn't have like $50 a month to invest, then I would definitely say to check out Acorns and Stash. Like I don't have anything against those apps. It's just that I feel like I'm already investing, like I'm not trying to do 100 different apps that all have the same like purpose. So yeah, let's see a couple other questions. I'm not going to be on here for too long. I don't want to take you guys whole night, but I do want to get a couple more questions because I haven't talked to y'all in a while. Do you have any advice for first time car buyers? So try to do as much as possible, do the research. I love Mr. Money Mustache, his blog, and he talks a lot about why it is really important to not take on debt for a car, because a car is not a um it's not an investment that you make that actually builds. Like it doesn't bring you more money unless you're going to use it for work. So if you're going to use it for work, that's different. You should definitely like think about getting a good car that you can get a lot of money with. Like for example, you're going to drive Uber or Lyft or whatever. But yeah, if you're not going to use a car for that to like generate more income, as soon as you drive that car off the lot, it's worth less. So it's not like real estate or like stock investments that over time have been shown to grow. Over time, a car gets worth less and less and less. So you have to be really careful not to go into too much debt for a car. I do not have any interest in buying a car because yeah, I just feel like I'm not ready to do that. Hey, I don't even have my driver's license yet. Don't tell nobody. But first of all, it's not even that serious. Like I grew up in New York City, and I feel like a lot of people that I grew up with around me like don't have driver's license either, because we take the subway everywhere. We got a metro card to swipe on the train and off the train and the buses. So we don't need to drive all the time. In New York, driving is a luxury. So yeah, I would just say do your research. Check out Mr. Money Mustache because he has a lot of details, like calculations and like different places that you can go to do research for checking out if you want to get a used car, like looking at the Carfax, like all that kind of stuff. So I'm not necessarily an expert on that because I haven't done it yet. Again, I really like to talk about things that I've done or that I have experience with. So, but I can refer you to somebody that I think is definitely worthy of trust, and you can go. Oh, I think that was me. I think I'm live again. Sorry, guys, the connection is kind of bad. Um, Somebody just said they heard me on NPR earlier today. Yes. So I actually was talking about credit freeze because I have a good friend who was doing a piece, and we were talking about a credit freeze. I think it was on NPR. I'm not sure, but she reached out to me last minute, and I said that I would talk to her. But real quick, I totally agree with Diane. My girl knows what she's talking about. You know what I mean? You can put $5,000 in your pocket now and grow it, and then you can take care of people later when you have, um, yeah, when you kind of establish yourself and you're in a better place. It makes a lot of sense. With something that you're truly missing in your life, what I'm missing in my life, who I think just more flexibility, which is what I was creating when I left my job. Like I like when I wake up in the morning, I like to figure out like how I feel. Like, do I feel like I need to go work out right now? Like, is my body feeling lethargic, like I need to move. Or is it, do I feel like I need a hot cup of tea right now? Like, what, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I like to feel things out more now that I'm getting a little older. So I don't like to like wake up and have to do the same thing every day. Like maybe one day I don't feel like doing that same routine every day. And so even though morning routines are very important and I try to have my morning routine intact, I still like some variety in my schedule and my routines. So I think right now I'm missing that. And honestly, money is the only thing that can really give you that kind of independence. Um, Unfortunately, in our society, the only way you really have freedom over your time is if you don't rely on money. So that's why I'm going so hard trying to save my money out here, guys, because I'm trying to make sure that I do what I want to do when I want to do it, and I'm not forced to do things that I don't necessarily feel super passionate about just for income. So even though my job now I love, because it's pretty much what I would do if I wasn't getting paid to do it anyway. Like I would be pushing personal finance with young people anyway, but it's just a perk that I get paid to do it. Um, but yes, so somebody was saying that they heard me talking about something on NPR this morning. So yeah, just to talk about that, I had a conversation with a journalist who's amazing. We went to undergrad together, and she reached out saying, "Hey, I'm trying to talk to people who've done a credit freeze." So I actually did do the credit freeze. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about that. When Equifax had the whole crazy scandal about how hundreds of thousands of people and millions of pieces of data were out there, social security numbers, birthdays, all this stuff. There was a lot of news about saying that you should do a press look at me. There was a lot of press saying that you should do a credit freeze. And so I looked into it. And at the time, it was a lot of stuff saying that you had to pay to freeze your credit. And so I was like, man, not gonna do it. Because in my head, I was like, okay, oh, how nice. Equifax has a hack. And then all of a sudden, you got to pay to freeze your credit. And that's the solution to the hack. Sound like, I don't like to be conspiracy theorist, but it just sounded like too much like that to me. But then I found out that Equifax was like, no, absolutely not. This is completely free because as a result of the hack, it's the least we could do. And I was like, that is true. So I decided to do the credit freeze, and to lift the freeze, to unfreeze your credit, you used to have to pay, but now you don't. So you don't have to pay anymore. So because of that, it kind of incentivized me more to do it. Basically, what it is like nobody can use my credit because it's frozen. So if somebody tries to use my account and to do fraud and like open a new account or something in my name with my social and my birthday and everything, it would get denied and declined immediately because my credit is frozen. I froze it, and then they gave me a 10-digit PIN when I signed up online. And in order for me to unlock it or unfreeze my credit, I have to put in that 10-digit PIN. So I'm the only one that has it. Obviously, just make sure you don't, if you do this, don't give anybody your PIN. And then the other cool thing is, let's say I want to get a home and I'm looking at a mortgage and I'm looking at a specific bank. Then I could just go to that specific bank and give them the 10-digit PIN so that they could check my credit, and then only they're allowed to see it because they have access to my PIN. So you could kind of control who sees it. If you do want to apply for something, it's not gonna, mess up the process for you. So that I thought was really cool. But it wouldn't work if you need to like check your credit a lot. Like if you're in the middle of applying for a home mortgage, do not freeze your credit because you're gonna be shopping around for the best APR. And that means that you're trying to get the best mortgage deal, which means a lot of different institutions or organizations are going to be checking your credit. So you want to leave that open. But if you're not in a position where you don't have anybody looking out at your credit report and your score, then you should be good. A credit freeze might be a good option for you. How long did it take you to get an 800 credit score? Ooh, it took me from I think it took me like from 2015, probably was like the first time I actually actively started trying to get a good credit score, to 2017. So 2 years I went from like high 500s, like low 600s to 800. And last year I actually hit my 800. So yeah, a little bit under 2 years. What are some tips for growing your net worth? The only way to do it is to bring down your spending and increase your income so that the gap between your income and your spending can be put away. That's how you increase your net worth. So for me, it was um, getting a better paying job. So thank goodness that came into my lap. And also thinking about multiple streams of income. So for me, if I had just had a day job and that was it, that's just one paycheck. But I decided to start a YouTube channel, which gives me a couple $100 extra every month. And then I decided to start doing other, speaking gigs and things, like trying to do more with my time that could bring me more money. Because really, unless you're making a lot of money and spending a little bit of money, it's going to be hard to do it with just one job. So that's why I decided to get multiple streams of income, which is definitely that's something that you can do. Why I just see Diane's comment talking about because you can't drive. Stop. I admitted that. So I admit that. And I talk about that. It's a goal that I have to learn how to drive, y'all. So somebody out here want to teach me how to drive. If y'all want to give me free driving lessons and you're a good driver, hit me up because yeah, I need to learn like ASAP. Do you think reporting a false fraud of $27 lowers your credit. $27? Well, here's the thing. Any fraud matters. Anything on your credit score that or your credit report that's not that you didn't matters. You know, you should definitely care about it because it's impacting your credit score, which if it's not right, it shouldn't. That's not fair. You know, that's like having a quiz that you got a C on and it's impacting your grade in your class, but you're like, oh, but it doesn't matter. It was just one quiz. No, it matters because it's hurting your score and it wasn't you who took the quiz. So basically, if you see something that wasn't you, definitely report it and handle it because it is definitely something that you shouldn't be taking responsibility for if it wasn't actually you. Just want to say, I think I heard you on the radio. Oh, yeah, we just talked about that. I heard you on NPR. I hope it was you. Yes, it was me. I was talking about credit freeze. Oh, my God, that's so funny. My sister's 35 and she don't have a driver's license. Look, Ricky, I ain't the only one, okay? There's a lot of New Yorkers who don't have a driver's license. Flexibility, Guyana agrees with me, and a couple other people do too. Ricky, Frankie, Argonaut, when did I start saving money? I started actually saving money because here's the thing. I was saving money, but I was using it at the end of the month to pay off my debt, so I wasn't technically really saving. That was all 2015. And then in 2016, like a few months after the new year, that's when I actually became debt free. So I started in 2014, like to just put a plan together, just to look at all the debt that I had because it was rough. Like I had a lot of credit cards and I had a student loan and I also had, I co-signed something for somebody else. I should never, you know, I had no business doing that, but I had to try to figure out how to get that off of my credit. And so pretty much when I finally sat down and looked at everything, it was like early 2014, and then 2016, 2 years later, I finally was debt free and started to actually save. So from 2016 to now, I've been able to save $66,000, so almost $30,000 a year, and my salary was not more than 60, maybe 61,000, 62,000. I wasn't making over 65. So sorry, I got a phone call coming in. Sorry guys. So when did you start saving money? I already talked about that. Marry me. I am not interested in getting married. No, the thing is that a lot of people keep asking me to marry them, and I'm like, not really interested in getting married, guys. I don't know. Oh man, this internet is rough. Sorry, I keep getting disconnected. Anyway, not trying to get married right now, so I'm gonna move on to the next question. Good advice for new immigrants with a credit score. You have to try to figure out how the best way for you to start establishing credit in this country is, because for a lot of people that might be establishing a bank account and then with that bank, once you have some loyalty with that bank, they will probably offer you some credit like services first before any other bank. Because if you're not a client, if you're an immigrant, you don't have, let's say for example, you're still working with your documentation, you're still trying to get it all sorted out, it's going to be really hard to get approved for new credit from a company that doesn't have a relationship with you. So it might be, the smartest thing might be to just start establishing a bank account, you know, establishing a relationship with a company, a bank or credit union, whatever, and then figuring out from there what services, what credit cards, what credit services do you have that would allow me to actually establish some credit. Because a bank account, as you all know, is not enough to establish credit. It has to be more than just a checking account or saving account. It has to be something that is actually connected to your credit score, which means that you have to borrow money and pay it back on time to show that you have responsibility, that you're fiscally responsible or whatever. So yeah, but it's hard. It's hard for new immigrants. I've actually heard from a lot of friends who recently moved to the country, or even family members that some of my friends have had a hard time. So going online and finding some resources. I know that particularly with the Latino community, or Latinx community, there's a lot of resources for retirement for immigrant families, because when you come to this country and you're working like part-time, you don't necessarily get retirement by your company unless you're like full-time and you've been there, like, and sometimes even if you've been there for a few months, it doesn't kick in until you've been there a few years and stuff like that, or a year and stuff like that. So it's really important to kind of do things on your own these days, because a lot of companies are not gonna have your back when it comes to retirement the way that it used to be, back in the day when there were pensions and stuff like that. It's very rare to find stuff like that these days. Any advice for first-time renters? My credit is being impacted by the credit checks by the apartment. In 2 months I'll have to get it checked by Duke Energy. Okay, so here's what I would say, because when I was looking for an apartment, and there was 3 roommates when I was looking for the apartment for my first apartment, and we all 3 had to do the credit check. So what I would say is it's really hard to find an apartment where you don't have to get a credit check unless you know the landlord personally or something like that, which, I mean, I've done that before. But in order to like basically minimize it, what I would do is only actually allow the credit check if you are
100% in and you're paying for an application fee, you're in there, you know, you're very, very serious about this apartment, and that shouldn't be that many. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be putting 10 different applications for apartments out there, because that's too much. You have to pay per application, first of all. A lot of cases, I don't know if everybody's like, if everything is like New York, but in New York you have to pay per application, and so that's like $50 minimum fee per application. And then you have to pay, most of the time you have to pay them to run your credit. They make you pay for it, so it's like another $50. So if you're applying to 10 apartments, that's $1,000 just in fees before you even put your deposit down. And then you also have to put first month's rent and security. Like, so it's just can run up way too much money, and also it's bad for your credit. So make sure you minimize it down to like 2 or 3 that you're very serious about, and only one at a time. So don't make them all run your credit at the same time, because you know that will hurt. If you're shopping for an apartment, you know, obviously you want to be careful, and you couldn't even ask like, hey, is it possible for me to give you my credit report? I can access it. I can access my FICO score from my credit card or from here. Is it okay if I give you? Sometimes they'll say no, because obviously they want to be the ones to run it and do the official check. But hey, you never know. So it's just a good idea to just ask. And just be really, really sure before you pay anything, because sometimes they'll be like, oh, you need to put a good faith deposit, and that just means that they're going to take it off the market and stop showing it to other people and see how your application process goes. Just make sure your credit is decent. If you have a 650 or higher, you shouldn't really be worried. But if your score is less than 650, you might want to wait. You might want to pay down utilization, or you know, figure out how to what factor needs the most work to improve your score, and then go back and do and figure out, like, you know, the application process later once your score is a little bit higher, because you want to be a little bit above a 650 before you start applying for apartments. I miss how long it takes to increase my credit limit. I miss how long it takes. It depends. Most credit cards will say you can increase your credit limit within 6 to 8 months of opening a card with us, as long as you always pay your bill on time and you don't have any missed payments, any late payments, any like derogatory remarks and stuff like that. But it really does depend. Every account is different. Every organization, corporation, company, bank is different. So, but I would definitely say you don't want to request it too soon, because they're probably going to say no. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll actually run your credit to see if they want to give you a credit limit increase. So be mindful of that, because if you don't want new inquiries on your report, or let's say you just apply for a new card and then you go and ask your old card to see if they can increase your credit limit, now you're going to have 2 inquiries, one from the new card and one from the old card, just to see if they want to increase your credit. So be careful with asking too much for credit increases, because it can hurt your score. I'm 19, I'm a college student, I'm Latina, I'm trying to save and study. Do you have any advice for college students? Melinda, that is a great question. I would definitely say you should focus 100% on your schoolwork, because that is something that is going to make you more likely to earn more money when you graduate. That's just a fact, right? If you look at statistics that show college graduates make like, you know, tens of thousands of dollars more than high school grads that didn't get a college degree. So it's definitely worth it to stay and focus and graduate, and you know, get all the skills that you need that college will show you: communication, problem solving, teamwork, collaboration. Like, I did so much in college, like my writing skills improved, like, but just make sure that you're only going to get out of college what you put into college. So there's people that go to college, you know, it's like, you shouldn't have went. You wasted your time and your money. But if you put in a lot, you'll get a lot out of it. So definitely focus on that. But when I was in college, I had 4 different jobs. I worked at the dean's office, I worked at the campus pizzeria, I worked at Res Life, and I also worked at the library. So like, I had, you know, I had a lot of jobs. I was trying to figure it all out, and I was hustling. But at the same time, if it's going to affect your grades and really hurt you, then obviously don't work more than like part-time. So it's like 15 hours a week or something like that. But get creative about how you can make money. Like, I wish I hustled more. Like, I know how to thread eyebrows in college. I should have been charging girls to thread their eyebrows. I should have been charging to do girls' nails and hair, because I'm good at that stuff. Like, I wasn't really doing that. Like, I could have been a little bit like more of an entrepreneur. But, you know, I just didn't think of it. So do whatever you got to do. Try to save as much money, you know, within legal confines. And then, you know, learn as much as possible, because it doesn't matter how much you make. What matters is your plan with your money. Like, you can make a little bit of money and have a lot of money saved, and there's people out there who make a lot of money and got no money saved. So it's really, what do you know about money and how to make money work for you, that matters more. So focus on learning about money and how to manage money first, while you can, especially if you're young and you have more free time, because once you're working full-time, you get no breaks between classes, no naps, none of that. You know, your weekends you probably be working, or you probably be exhausted. So now that you have more free time, which I know some college students out there are like, free time? What? I don't have no free time. It feels like you don't have free time now, but trust me, I had a lot more free time when I was in college than I do now working a full-time job. So should I pay more towards my mortgage to try to pay it off, or invest So that depends. What is the APR of your mortgage lender? Because if you have a pretty good rate, like if you have like a 3% or 4% interest rate on your mortgage, that's not bad. Investing can get you, 8 to 9% over a 10-year period of time if you invest in, the entire market and not try to pick stocks individually. So it could make more sense to invest, especially if you have really good credit. If you had really good credit when you got your mortgage, your APR should be pretty low. But if your APR is like 8% because you had bad credit when you got your mortgage, you don't want to invest because that's basically you need to that's a lot of that's a lot of interest to be paying. So you want to make sure you focus on that. But what I recommend also for anybody out there who's trying to pay down a mortgage is to focus on the fact that like a mortgage is it charges you compound interest, right? Or the interest compounds over time. So, and it's just like credit card debt. Like there's a lot of different types of debt that compound exponentially, which means like, compound interest is they're going to charge you interest on the balance that you borrowed and the interest that you haven't paid. So it can just grow really fast and spiral really quickly. Try to see if there's any way that you can work around the system by getting simple interest, by borrowing money that when you pay back simple interest and not compound interest. So one example off the top of my head is a line of credit from a bank or credit union. A line of credit, not a home mortgage line of credit, just a regular line of credit. You can usually get like $10, $15, $20,000 line of credit if you have a good credit score. And when you pay back simple interest. So it's not going to compound over time. So if you could figure out a way to use the simple interest to pay that back instead of your mortgage, maybe you can, let's say for example, you take out $10,000 from your line of credit and you use it to pay the mortgage, and then you pay back the $10,000 to the line of credit. Now you're paying $10,000 back, but you're not paying it in compound interest, you're paying it in simple interest. So really trying to figure out, because that's the thing, a lot of people don't understand the difference. First of all, people don't understand how interest works. And then when they do understand interest, they only know about compound interest and they don't know that there's products out there that actually allow you to pay back interest in simple interest. So do some research on that. Maybe I'll post a video about that soon actually, because that is definitely one thing that when I eventually do invest in real estate, I'm not playing with that compound interest. I'm gonna figure out everything I can to try to pay back simple interest if I can, even if that means like, moving money from one account to another. What's the best way to get started investing? My thing is robo-advising. Download a robo-advising app. You can start investing literally in a couple minutes. Maybe not a couple minutes because they got to verify your bank account, so maybe like in a day. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. If you're young, if you have a phone or a computer, you can start investing with just $5, $1, $2. A lot of people stay away from the stock market because they think that you need to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to buy a stock, but that's not true. You could start with a little bit of money. So places that you should check out: Betterment. You should check out Wise Banyan if you're interested in investment retiring. If you're interested in stocks, Acorns, Stash app. There's a lot of companies, new companies out here, especially now with all this tech, that are allowing people, everyday people like you and me, to invest with a little bit of money. All right, I'm only gonna take a couple more questions because it's like dinner time over here in Palo Alto and I'm getting hungry. So let me see. My credit score, something 14 points. Moral of the story, I don't rely on Credit Karma. So here's the thing about Credit Karma, and I've said this before in a lot of videos. Credit Karma is great for you to know how you are going to improve your score, or what you need to do. So they give you the factors and they tell you what your score, where generally your score is and why it's that way. If it's good or if it's bad, why it's good, why it's bad. And then the good thing about it is that it is pretty accurate in terms of change. So if your credit score increased or decreased, they'll tell you right away. They even send you emails. Your credit score just dropped. Your credit score just increased. So that's great. So monitoring, basically. I can say a million words just for one thing. Monitoring, credit monitoring is great, right? But the thing is that they don't use the FICO score. They use a different scoring model, which is called Vantage Point or something like that. And basically because of that, because they use the Vantage Point score, it's going to be slightly different from your FICO score. So, but what you can definitely check is your credit report, so you can see what's on there. Credit score, not always going to be to the T, exactly to the point. But it still helps with credit monitoring. So I still use it a lot and I trust it, even though I know that it's not 100% my accurate FICO score. What do you think about silver, gold, bullion to preserve wealth, and do you own any? I don't own any. I think there's a lot of people out there who would argue for it. I'm not, I don't have strong feelings. I feel indifferent. I think that even with just the stock market alone over long periods of time, investing investing for the average and not trying to beat the returns of the market. Like, I think I'm happy with that. But, you know, maybe I got to do more research on that, buying gold and stuff like that. I'll take a couple more. Let's see. Why am I speaking so fast? I'm sorry, Felipe. You know what? When I finish this video uploading it, you can go on the settings and you can put it on 0.5 speed, which means I'll be talking half as fast. But I can't help it. This is just me, how I talk. This is just how I talk. I talk regular. I mean, I think I talk regularly, but people clearly think I talk too fast. Let's see. You mentioned Mr. Money Mustache. Do you know about FIRE? Absolutely. There's a huge financial independence, retire early community. There's a lot of articles about them. What's my opinion? I think if it's for you, you will know it. You will know if it's for you or not. I'm kind of like half in, half out. Like, I would like to enjoy my life while I'm young, right? So, and I make a lot of sacrifices now, but I don't go as hard as the FIRE community, because what the FIRE community does is they literally just say, I'm going to sacrifice so much so that I can retire in my 30s, or, you know, as early as possible. 40 is even still young to retire, which I would love to retire early. Reasonably speaking, I probably won't be retiring until I'm like 45 or something like that, just because you need a lot of money these days to retire, especially if you want to have a family, especially if it's not just you and all that stuff. So I wouldn't call myself FIRE, although I love the principles. I love what it's about. I absolutely 100% respect it and admire it. And I'm so inspired by people who are, you know, successful with FIRE every single day. I read new articles about people who've done it, and I'm like, yes, my goodness, hashtag goals. But I'm not like going hard like that. It's just something that I feel like I do as much as I can, and I'm, you know, within reason, because I have a big family, and because I eat, you know, very healthy, and some food can be expensive sometimes. So it just, you know, depends on where you are in life. If you feel ready for that and you're ready to attack it, like, ain't nobody gonna stop you, because FIRE people go hard. Get an account with experience to monitor your credit score. Yeah, they do. Actually, you don't need to pay. They do free credit monitoring as well, or at least fraud alerts. Sorry, they don't do free credit monitoring. I'm not sure about that. I should take that back. I know for sure they do free fraud alerts. So you can get fraud alerts to your phone, to your email, whatever, and that is free. So definitely, at the very least, do that if you're not going to do a credit freeze, or if you're not going to pay for credit monitoring. Look at that. If you have somebody here, Ethan says that he has a free account with Experian, and it gives him his FICO score every month. So that's great. Like, maybe you could use that in combination with Credit Karma, because Credit Karma gives you a lot more details about what it is about your credit score that's making it drop or increase. The best place to check your accurate credit score, it would be once a year on freeannualcreditreport.com, and you can only do it once a year. If you do it more than that, you're going to either have to pay, or it will start to hurt your score, because the more you check it, right, the worse it is. I was going to say the worse it is for your score. So you want to make sure that you are not checking it too much, like don't OD, checking it all the time, but you can do it once a year. So I would pick the day that you're not going to forget, like, you know, the day after New Year's or Christmas every year, as a gift to yourself. Check your credit score, or your birthday, whatever, something like that. Do I give one-on-one training? No, I talked about this in the other video before I got cut off, that I don't do one-on-one training because of the fact that I feel like, you know, to become a financial advisor, you know, people kind of get away with a lot. Like, people pay a lot of fees and stuff, and they don't realize that they're paying that much, and then it's like commission based and stuff. So I'm not necessarily like interested in becoming a financial advisor. Maybe one day I'll change my mind. What are some good podcasts for finance, not boring, such as Money Matters? Yeah, Money Matters is great. You can do You're So Money for Noosh. She's great. You can listen to Freakonomics. It's not necessarily like a personal finance podcast, but it's really great about like just economics principles and really cool like scientific money things, like economical, what do you call it, like behavioral economics. It's great for that. What do I like to listen to? Planet Money is really great. Personal finance, let me think. I don't know. I don't really listen to a ton of personal finance podcasts per se, but I know there's a lot of good ones. Maybe, I don't know. I'll have to think about that one, because there's a bunch of podcasts out there and they all be running through my mind at once. I am good. Thank you for asking, Trash Bag Fashion Lover. That's a great YouTube channel name. Felipe says, thank you, Miss B. I enjoy your advice. You're welcome. Have I ever worn an unused plastic garbage bag as clothing? No, I have not, Trash Bag Fashion Lover. I have not done that. Yes, the Vantage score. That's what Credit Karma uses. Thank you, Alex. Recently signed up for Betterment and want your opinion on it. I love Betterment. I use Betterment every month I deposit. Should I set a date like a year? No, no. I would not set a date like a year when you plan to retire. Okay, so when you set up your betterment, they're gonna ask you, when do you plan to retire? Because that's gonna help them to know if you wanna be really aggressive or not. The closer you are to the year that you want to retire, the less aggressive you have to be, because you're going to need the money soon. But if it's not for a long time, you could be more aggressive because you've got decades and decades to, make the money back. Excuse me. So I don't recommend target date funds, which is like, investing a fund that says like 2055 or something like that. I don't know, whatever the year it is you're going to retire. I would recommend you doing just like going in, setting up the account, and putting the year that you plan to retire, letting them auto calculate like a diversified portfolio, and then looking at it and just swiping. If you want to be more aggressive, be more aggressive. If you are not 30 yet, you should definitely not have more than like 10%. Or I mean, not definitely, this is what I do. I'm not 30 yet, and I don't have like more than 10% in bonds. Like I would say less than 10% in bonds. When you're in your 30s, maybe 10% in bonds. When you're 40s and 50s, obviously you start to put more 20-30% bonds. But like, unless, because if you plan to retire in your 60s or 70s, like that's 30, 40, 50 years that you're basically settling for a lot of safety, pretty much, when you have a lot of bonds. So I would just let them recommend it, and then you adjust it based on how comfortable you are with being more risky. I think it depends on your age and when you plan to retire. So if you're young and you don't plan to retire for a long time, be more risky and more aggressive. Let's see. Oh, okay. There's a couple podcasts that Harry Mundy is over here recommending. He says, for podcasts, try Bigger Pockets. I don't know that one. I'll check them out, especially for real estate investing. Oh, okay, that real estate investing. So I think people want to know like personal finance ones. I would say You're So Money is a good one. A lot of people talk about that one. And yeah, I just got to think on it. I'll put it in the comments for this video after. A couple more that I recommend after I had a chance to think about it and like look through my podcast list. I feel rushed into getting a credit card too fast, and I have too many. Do you have any advice on how to start out with credit, especially cards? Definitely don't want to rush into it. So if you already feel like you rushed into it, slow down. Slow down, stop using them. Just sit down on a basic little spreadsheet, put each credit card that you have, the due date, opening statement date, closing statement date, or statement closing date, statement opening date, APR, how much are you paying in interest, balance, how much you owe, and just try to like get a handle on them. Keep them all at a balance that you're comfortable with, and try to get them to zero every single month if you can. If you can afford to pay them all down all the time, do that, because it will help your score the most, and it will avoid you paying interest fees. So I would say slow down, stop spending, and just come up with a spreadsheet where you can get a view of everything. Where are all my cards in one place? Let me look at this, because if it's too much, you're gonna be overwhelmed, and you're not gonna enjoy it. It's gonna stress you out, and then when things stress you out, you kind of try to avoid them instead of leaning into it. So you want to just try to take it head on and get it all in one place, organize it, and get a handle on it so that you're in charge, and you don't let it take charge of you. Chase Card has not given me a credit line increase. Any advice on how to get one? Call them and ask for it. If you really want it, and if it's been a long time and your score is good, they should be able to give it to you. You might just have to keep asking to talk to the supervisor. Can I talk to your supervisor? Can I talk to your supervisor? Put aside like 40 minutes on the phone for them or more, because you'll have to talk to a bunch of people before they actually say yes. All right, last one before I let y'all go. All the limits are at 0, and some of them have been open for limits are at 0. That don't make no sense. You mean balances are at 0? For such a short time that they have yet to show on my report. Should I cancel the ones that are unnecessary before they build age? No, because it's going to come up on your score later. The only way you should cancel it is if they charge you a high fee. If you have an annual fee or a monthly fee that you're paying to have the credit card, then I would cancel it. Because, yeah, balance is not limits. That's what I thought, Tashi. Okay, or what is this, Trashy David? I thought it was Tashi David. So yeah, I would say don't cancel it, because later on in a couple months you'll forget about it, and it's going to come up on your score, on your credit report. It's going to hurt your score. If you opened it, leave it. If the balance is 0, that's fine. You don't need to use your credit card every single month. You could use it like once or twice a year just to keep it active. So don't use it. Maybe in a few months you buy one thing and pay it off, and that's it. You just have to use it every now and then, so that it shows that you're using it and has some activity. But I don't feel like you need to go closing it, because when you close a card, it really hurts your score. And there's another video that I have on here, which is, will closing a credit card affect my credit score? And the answer is yes. So it'll hurt your age by dropping it significantly, and it will also hurt your score immediately, because it'll drop the amount of credit available to you. So your utilization percentage is going to rise, which is going to hurt your score a lot, because you want to keep that percentage below 10% to be in the excellent category, and below 30% to be like good or fair. That is all I'm going to share with you guys tonight. Thank you so much for jumping in here, asking me all these questions. I will be back next week with a regularly scheduled video, hopefully once I got my life together back in the city. If y'all want to reach out to me, definitely email me at missbehelpful@gmail.com. Till next time, peace. Bye, guys.